Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Politics Lab on YouTube. My name is Bill Muck. I'm a professor of political science at North Central College, and I'm joined by my colleague and best friend, Dr. Phil Barker, who is a professor of political science at Keene State College. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Bill. How's it going?
It's going well. We have 2 days left, less than 48 hours in the presidency of Donald Trump. This is a pretty dramatic development.
Less than 2 days. Yeah, it's sort of surreal. Yeah, we've gotten so used to living with Donald Trump. Even the lack of Twitter has been kind of weird. I don't. I'm not going to miss it, but It's going to feel weird when he's gone.
It is. This will be a major change. And in these last few days, Trump, it appears, has been surrounding himself with the biggest of all the conspiracy nuts, including the MyPillow guy, Mike Lindell, multimillionaire who apparently sells pillows. Has been showing up at the White House with plans for the Insurrection Act, telling Trump that he can still stay in power, he can still be president. They caught a glimpse of his notes. Rudy Giuliani is selling pardons. What did you say? Like $2 million?
$2 million. $2 million. He can get you a pardon.
And does that money goes to Rudy, not to Trump?
It's all above board. That's all I know. Perfectly legal.
And I'm guessing, Rudy may not get a pardon. So he's got to hope that by selling these pardons, he also can get a pardon because, as you said, there's some illegality going on here. So, all right, for our 5 to 10 minutes here, Phil, what are you thinking about all these final days, these final moments, conspiracy theories everywhere? What's to make of it?
We've talked throughout the 4 years about having adults in the room, and it's just exceptionally clear that there are none left. I mean, for the last year, there have been none left. But now that we're in these final days post, insurrection at the Capitol, there's, people. I think the end is obvious for Trump, and people are distancing themselves, except for the diehards, and the diehards are the crazies. I mean, they're the people who are like, so it's you shared a story with me. Was it Axios that had the story about all the attorneys that have been fighting, this litigation about the election? They're still fully convinced, and they're fully on board with QAnon stuff. Yeah. And they're reporting the part. So here's my question to you. You've got all of these people who are all in on QAnon. It's unclear to me whether Trump is also all in on it, or if he's just, looking for excuses to try to stay in. Because the reporting, I mean, there's reporting in that Axios article that he is even sort of laughing and making fun of some of these people. But at the same time, there's all sorts of other reporting that he is still wandering around the White House by himself, telling anyone and everyone he can find that he absolutely won the election. And I don't know if that's a ploy for him, or if he has bought his own product, like if he's also, fully in on it. What do you think? Do you think he actually believes this?
It's a great question for understanding not just this moment for Trump, but Trump as a whole, right? His whole story, his whole life and his whole career is these coming up with these stories and these narratives. Does he believe them? I get the sense that he sort of does, right? Because he continues to tell people that he won, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. He's that sort of narcissist. He certainly has people, and that Axios piece said there are people around him telling him this is not true, right? So his election lawyer said that there's no evidence that the election was stolen. Bill Barr, the next piece in that Axios series came in, and Bill Barr said this is all bullshit and people are lying to you, right? So there is somebody who's credible saying this is not fake. Trump apparently said, well, sometimes you got to find the crazies. You got to surround yourself with the crazies, which makes me think he probably gets that. That's what he is. He is a bullshitter. But he shouldn't be president of the United States entertaining that. Mike Lindell, the MyPillow guy, was apparently running a discount this week, and the discount code was QAnon. So if you typed QAnon in, you got a percentage off your pillow, right?
How many did you buy, Bill?
Like a whole set. So, think about where the country has drifted and fallen, where those are people that are getting access to the president. And luckily, he's not doing much. He's lazy. He's not really trying to govern anymore. But if that weren't the case, I don't know. What do you think about this? Does he believe? Is he a true believer?
I still think that everything, like if you want to understand Trump, so much of it comes around to just absolute toxic narcissism, right? So he's a person who cannot accept that he lost, right? It's all about self-interest. And so I don't know enough about the psychology of that, but it seems to me possible that he both recognizes that it's not true and is also convinced that it, has convinced himself that it is, because it's the only way to comfort, it's the only way that he can make himself feel better about having lost. And
Yeah.
so I think he can recognize that there are no facts that point to this, but still, like, emotionally, psychologically
Yes.
fully latch on to this idea that it was stolen from him. And so it's not rational, right? But so I mean, that seems to fit. The scary thing for me, I mean, this is the part that I'm kind of curious about what you think too. There are less than 48 hours, but he's still president for 48 hours. We haven't seen the mass of pardons. I would be shocked if he didn't pardon his children and it didn't try to pardon himself. But there was a report today that said that he's leaning towards not doing that. But like you said, he had, a guy come, the My Pillow guy come with notes about martial law, and Rudy Giuliani is meeting with him with his national security person on on Saturday morning. They were meeting. They just put in a new, like, top national defense lawyer at the CIA this weekend with like 3 days to go.
Yeah.
That's all stuff that makes me think he's not just sitting around watching TV waiting for his term to end. And it makes me, I'm unclear. It's unclear to me if he does accept it and he's just, complaining about it. This is him, talking to other people. I won. He's trying to convince himself, or if he's still so desperate and still, as the walls, enclose on him, if he is willing to get sort of more and more zany in this. And, do you think he's going to sort of fade out over the next 2 days, or is he going to do something insane in the next 2 days? And then once he's out of office and is no longer, people don't need him, they don't come to him, he's the odds that he's going to surround himself with even, zanier people is likely. What do you see happening in the next 2 days and then in the next year?
So for me, so we're taping on Monday. I think tomorrow, Tuesday, is the big day, because I don't think he'll do anything on Wednesday. He's only got till noon, right? So then he wants to leave, and there's travel and all that. So tomorrow, if there are going to
He
be
doesn't want to leave. He just has to leave.
He's got to leave. So I'm thinking tomorrow, if there are going to be pardons, that's when he drops whatever those pardons are, and anything else that's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some additional disgraceful things. I also think he seems defeated. I think the losing Twitter seems to have affected him. And again, we don't know because we're not seeing him daily. We're not seeing his psychology play out through the tweets, but it does feel like the reporting accounts that he is kind of a lost person, very angry, very vengeful, but not very effective. And that's been something we've seen throughout his presidency. He gets very angry, but he's not always very good at getting things done with that sense of rage. So I don't know. I'm hopeful that we can slide through and that Mike Pence is saved from not invoking the 25th Amendment, that he gets through this. But there, every time we think Trump is done, there's something else that happens. So hopefully it doesn't.
Well, this is where the surrounding himself with the sort of fringier people and the disappearance of the adults in the room might actually pay off in some ways, in that most of what the president does, including pardons, they're not just by fiat. He doesn't just say it and it happens, right? There have to be people who prepare the documents for pardons. There have to be people who actually, draft the policy changes and whatnot. If you're wanting to make changes in national security policy, they can still be done, but they do require other people. And so if he's surrounded by Rudy Giuliani's who can't even handle a press conference, the idea that he's going to be able to, draft the necessary documents to put together a pardon, I don't know. There may be enough people in the government who are willing to do that, but that's an easy thing. If I'm in the Justice Department and you get an order to like draft documents for a pardon, you drag your feet for a day and it's done. And so it'll be interesting to see how much of that, how much of his isolation affects even his ability to do some of this stuff.
It's a really interesting point. I know we got to wrap up, but I think that happened on immigration with the census issue, where I think there were probably some officials who dragged their feet. I've seen there was a former Trump official who came out and said the right thing to do was for good people to leave, because then he would be surrounded by people who are ineffective. It's kind of an interesting argument on whether you should stay or go within the administration, but you're right. He's alone, and even the diehards have kind of distanced themselves from him, so he's much less effective. Next time we talk, Phil, Joe Biden will be president.
It's amazing. It feels surreal, but it's going to be good. It's going to feel good.
It'll be interesting to break all that down. So tune in to the podcast next Wednesday. We will be talking all things inauguration, talking about Biden's speech and the transition from the Trump to the Biden administration. See you next week, Phil.
See you on Wednesday, Bill.